Hi guys, so in the previous tutorial we have created a Node.js project and a Flutter project, and in Node.js project we have created registration, login, and create to-do list API. Okay, and the same was integrated in a Flutter app through which a user can register, login, and in login we have also included a session through which a user will be signed in into the app until the session get expired. Okay, and the user was able to create his to-do list, that is whenever he want to store his to-do data, the data was getting stored in our mongodb database. Okay, so for that we have created a API, as you can see over here. Okay, so now in this tutorial, I think so this video tutorial is the 11th part. So in this tutorial we are going to create an app API through which we need to get all the data that is being stored by the user. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so let me open my MongoDB database and let me show you where the data is getting stored if you have not watched the previous tutorials. Okay, so this is my local database and here is the collection. Okay, so to-do collection. So you can see in to-do collection, I'm just storing the data that has been entered by the user from the Flutter app. Okay, so for this we have made use of this API. Okay, so now from this database, I need to fetch all the data of a particular user by making use of an API. So you can see I'm just storing a user ID over here that defines this data is of this user. Okay, okay, so I have this user somewhere over here. So this is the user, so under his name, so this all data are being stored. Okay, so for that particular user data only I need to fetch by making use of API. So let's create a API for that. Okay, so in to do route over here, let's create a API. So you can just create it by making use of router. So I'll just make use of get data. We are going to get the data stored in our database. Okay, so I can just name it as get user to do list. Okay, so this is my API name. Okay, and now I need to create a controller. So let's go to a controller first. Okay, and here this is the function. So I will just copy this function and just paste it over here and create my own function once more. Okay, so here get user to do, I can name it. Okay, so from the front end, I'm going to pass only the user ID of whose data I want to fetch. So I don't need of this title and description. I'll just remove it. Okay, and now inside services folder, I need to create one more function that communicate with the database and gives us the result. Okay, so let's go to do services folder. Okay, so let's create a same function over here to get the data. So static async. Okay, so let's give this as get to do data. Okay, and here I'm going to just pass a user ID. So just remove this both thing. Okay, so I have a model over here. Okay, so we can make use of it. Okay, and to get the data from the database, we must make use of async await so that communicating with the database may take some time. So async await to do model dot find, and in this is the command of or a query of a mongodb mongoose. Okay, so find user id, find by user id. Okay, and whatever it is find in the whatever that is been stored in our database will be returned to this variable. So I will just name it as to do data. Okay, and after getting the data I will just pass this data to the function from where it has been called. Okay, so I just need to make use of this function now. Save the files. Okay, so to do, and here I need to just pass username to this function. Okay, and the data that is been returned by this to do services function will get stored in this to do data, and it has been respond to our front end. Okay, now let's call this controller from our route. Okay, so to do controller dot get user to do. Okay, save all the files. Yeah. Okay, so this is my API and this is the controllers. Okay, and here in controllers I am just accepting one parameter from the front end, that is user ID, and the user ID is being passed to this function get to do data, and we receive the data over here, user data, user parameter, and I'm just running a mongoose query to find the data that is being stored in our database by making use of user ID. Okay, so this is the user ID. Okay, and the data will get returned back to the controller, and controller will just respond to our front end by making use of response key. Okay, now let's check this if it is working or no. So to do that, just run the project npm run dev. Okay, so now let me open my postman. Okay, so here let's make a request. So I'll just copy this URL. So the it is a get method, and here I need to add my API name. Okay, so the API name is this one. Okay, and here you can see in the body I need to pass the user ID. So let's pass it in the body JSON raw JSON, and here let's pass the user ID in the object form. Okay. And the user ID you can just get it from the database. Okay, so I know this is my user. So this user data is being stored in this database. Yeah. So this is the user. You can see F8, and these are the data of that user. Yeah. So F8 one, BF1. So this is one, and this is some other user's data. Okay. So here I need to just pass the user ID. Okay, and our backend is running. You can see. Okay, so I will just hit, and you can just see we get a response of that particular user to do data. Okay, so these are the two datas of that particular user. Okay, so let's pass some other users ID over here and check. Okay, I think so. So 66068. So this user is, yeah, so this is the user. We'll just copy the user ID and paste it over here. Okay, so this data will be passed from our front end to get the particular user's data, as I said you. Okay, so you can see this user also has two data over here, so the data is something different. Okay, okay, so let me create one more data, and let's check if I get three data or no. Okay, so for to do, okay, so in body I need to pass the user ID. So this is test 3. Okay, so data was stored. So let's get all the data. So you can see I got the data of the third data that I have entered just now. Okay, so that's all for this video tutorial. So in our next part, we will just call this API from our Flutter app, and let's show the data in a list view in our Flutter app. Okay, so that's all for this video tutorial. Thanks for watching. Please do subscribe for the Postman. Thank you.